Sanchita Mukherjee, let me ask you about that. What Dr. Manmohan Singh has said, that there is a need to change the economic climate from fear to confidence. Is there a climate of fear? Would you acknowledge that?
No, I would not acknowledge that at all. In fact, contrary to what Dr. Kumar was stating, I would agree with my other colleague over here, because a lot of these issues have been generated in yesteryears. These entire BAT NPA situation, the bad debt that the banks are struggling with, the NBFC crisis, the leverage, the savings rate in the economy. Let's look at some numbers. Now, second quarter, financial year 2013, we did hit a GDP number of sub 5%. Where did that come from? Why don't we talk about the entire asset price inflation, which led to an 8% kind of a GDP growth numbers in yesteryears in India? Nobody talks about the entire voluntary contribution of the single-handed asset price inflation which happened. Here the government is trying to do a fantastic job of cleanup of the economy. Now, cleanup takes time. Why have the capital markets rallied in today's date? You may ask me, you just put up that question, right? The capital markets have rallied because the capital markets realize that these numbers, these reforms, they are not done by a spread of the magic wand. It's not reflective today or tomorrow. It will be reflective 6 months hence. If it's not, then it's an issue. So investors who are pouring money into the country from abroad, they realize that this is an economy which is still there's a real interest rate. I mean, look at your inflation's at 3%. If you're growing at a 4.5%, there's a real interest rate.
Let me take that to Amitabh. Let me take that criticism to Amitabh.
What investors are investing in is a Nifty 50 or Nifty 100 companies, which is the organized sector, which, as Professor Kumar said, gets reflected in the GDP numbers and is doing relatively well despite all the problems. What has happened is that we can keep going back to what happened 10 years ago, but let's remember what happened 3 years ago. The economy was beginning to pick up, and then the government brought in A, GST implementation, which was problematic, and B, demonetization, which had a huge impact on rural markets, because rural markets are cash markets. And this freeze on cash totally tied up household balance sheets, agricultural intermediaries, and so on and so forth. And you've had a deflationary rural environment since then. And if you go back to the previous boom, the big growth rates were rural. Rural was outperforming urban all throughout that period. And today, rural is underperforming urban in a very severe manner. So the problem lies in rural India, and this can be traced directly to actions that the government took. And we're seeing the consequences in terms of household savings going down and so on and so forth. Because sentiment, which is the original question you had, sentiment of the consumer has been hit. So they've stopped spending, and therefore demand is decreasing. And the problem
is... What is the climate of fear that Dr. Manmohan Singh talks about?
The climate of fear is to do, well, there is a climate of fear in our institutions, in our judiciary, in the media, and so on and so forth. But what he's talking about is exactly the attack on the cash economy. What we need is remonetization, not demonetization. You can't expect farmers to start using Paytm overnight. You can't expect them to switch. This is shock therapy. In fact, I see the Modi government equivalent to a Marxist government in the sense that they want society to change overnight. They don't believe in incentives that lead to behavior change. They want to do it by fiat. And this is the RSS mode of thinking. And I think in a complex society like India, it's going to have a very serious negative consequence.